Okay, so this is a recording of me doing a drawing for my the blog podcast that Kelly and I do for our James Joyce podcast, Blooms and Barnacles. So this might be going out to our channel for Blooms and Barnacles or my animation channel too. So whoever's listening, this is just a quick test we're doing. This is an illustration for one of our latest posts. And in the book James Joyce Ulysses, he mentions Leopold Bloom fantasizing about how nice it would be, and this is in 1904, to have recordings of the dead so that we don't forget their voices. And Bloom's a morbid man, so he begins to fantasize about Granddad sort of dead. We have like a little recording of the old man like being squeaking out here like this, right? So the idea is here I'm just going to record one of the my passes at an illustration to see if I can do this live, because normally I just do them as I please, but let's just record it and see if I can do it while talking. So usually I give myself like a time limit on these, because you could spend all day doing them. So illustration usually has to be in a landscape format, fits on social media and the internet better. And so let's see, we have the old man, and he's going to be, let's make the angle, try to stay loose, big old nose, mouth's open, something like this, and stay loose. I'm kind of tying it down too much already. That's because I'm talking to you. So you think if he's a corpse, he should look like he's sort of been propped up on the, tied to the chair or something. The hands drooping down, and it'll be sort of at a dinner table here. And if you're familiar with Edison wax cylinders, I've watched a few of those being refurbished on YouTube. There's YouTube videos where you can see these things, and they'd have like a little rolling drum, if I remember right, and some sort of big speaker horn like this. So okay, now the beauty of doing this in Photoshop is that I can scale it down a little bit or scale it up a little bit. Don't want to bleed off the page. And I've already made like a color overlay for this, so I can reduce this a bit. And now I can zoom in and start going a slightly better pass. So this is basically just for very crude, just to get the rough composition. Might have like next of kin here, like something like that. Not sure, we'll see. Also, an old trick is to flip horizontal, because that gives you like a fresher view. Sometimes I tend to go a little design blind with compositions. It happens. Back in the day, we would turn the paper over on the light table, put the backlight on. Now we can do it with a mouse click. Progress. Okay, so let's switch it back. And I think the head of the old man should be like tilted way back, as he is no longer alive. So either slouched forward or slouched back. And I think this is a better composition. Otherwise he'll clutter over the cylinder here. Okay, so now on the new layer. And he's an owlad, so let's do this. I was walking out of a supermarket in Arklow, my hometown, a few months ago, and there were some kids getting into like, rambunctiousness outside and tussling. And one of the young girls said to one of the other teenage lads, "Watch out, you nearly knocked that owl lad over." And then it took me a while to realize the owl lad she was talking about was me. So I was not happy about that, because I'm only 53. All right, let's see here. So this is going to be like just a very toothless owlad. This is what an owlad looks like. It doesn't look like me. And I'll give him one tooth, maybe one down here. And liver spots also. And, warts. Owlad stuff. And bags under the eyes. Okay. Also, stupid keyboard shortcuts. So that's more wrinkles. Okay, big ears. Cartilage gets bigger as we get older, and I think We have this like art thing with the chair, so I think I'm going to put that in front of the ear because it's going to lull him back over it. Maybe have a pinch the skin there. Wrinkles. Okay, now it gets a bit tricky with all the stuff here. Let me get the rope. Okay, tricky business here too with the shirt and everything. I think he'd be in his coffin clothes. Sunday best. Okay, and then just hang that arm straight down. Pure gravity. It's not doing anything. Okay, that's not too bad. And again, I give myself a time limit with these because lots of things to do, lots of YouTube videos to watch. So let's put the little box thingy. I forget the precise mechanics of this, and I probably should look it up, but nobody is going to notice. Just do remember there's a big cylinder drum. Very interesting little device, and they would scratch the, I think it was the other way around, the recording goes like this. That's it. And whatever this little noodle is here, a big cone for John McCormick to come out. Okay, and let's just complete this. I always hate closing off these little spaces. It's always fiddly. Okay. And that's enough rope. Otherwise it's going to get very noodly in here. I'm going to keep this clean. Little lapel. Close that off. Okay. And I think we should finish off the, see, this is the chair here. And again, this can get busy here too, so it's, I think that's too high. Let's bring it down a bit, because the perspective should be going like this. Okay, good enough for now. All right, and then the next of kin here. I'm not going to spend too much time on this guy, just enough. And now at this point, I think I can just switch off the underlayer. I kind of like going for the more like looser graphical style that you would have seen in the 50s through the 70s. It's a nice look. Okay, let's see if this is okay. Let me flip it horizontal again. We're a little bit off balance. We need some other element here just to bring it back in, and I might move it around a little bit. Let me go to the blue again. I'm going to completely delete all that, and I'm going to maybe add some other visual element here, like a window. Doesn't have to be major, just let's give us a bit of line weight in there, just so that that has some something that isn't just a white space. And again, if you look at the perspective, I'm trying to get some sort of hint at a vanishing point. I'm not being too scientific about it. And I think we should bring the whole thing down a little bit too. Okay, and I'm going to make a new layer for that background element because I'm a bit worried about it not quite working. You don't want to get too reliant on moving layers in Photoshop because it can really make work posy in a really bad sense, like where it looks stiff and not natural, doesn't have flow to it. So don't go too far into it. And another trick I use, click, hold down shift and click, and that will create a straight line. Again, don't over rely on this or things can look a little too artificial, too synthetic. We'll have the curtains here too. Just to hint at them. I guess there'll be some sort of runner along here. Yeah, I don't like the way this is turning out. Let me go back a bit. Okay, hit erase tool. Take that up to 100. There. And again, let's switch off the blue layer. And again, I just want this to hint at a background. I don't want it to be in any way the focal point. So let me go back to brush, take the opacity down really low. And this is going to be on top of, the humans are going to be on top of this. So we can just draw right through here. Let's switch them off for a second. Oops. Okay. And I'll just draw through a little bit. So if we do ever move things around, I am really not making any superhuman effort on the background. That's going to be faded out. I'm actually going to put that down to like a slight opacity. Okay, let's switch that thing off for now. Actually, before we do that, let's go back and flip horizontal. Move it back to here. That's better. That just weighs it a little bit better. It feels nicer. And other tricks we can do. Okay, so the other thing we can do to really make this look nicer is a new pass with a different line weight, or a brush rather. And I have a brush here. I call it Runny Inker. I found it somewhere. So let's see if we can go over it. And this one has a really nice sort of natural media blobby look. If you hear my cat in the background, that's just what he does. The bane of my life. Street cat, we rescued him from Portland, Oregon, and we took him to Ireland. And does he show me gratitude? Sometimes. Okay. Often though, not when I'm having computer problems. He has a weird psychic sense that I have to fix something and concentrate, and then he starts screaming. Okay, I'm going to erase some of that to clean it up. There he goes again. All right, let's put another thing. It's like nice to have like really dark areas. I could color that in solid too, but I kind of like this sort of natural marker feel. Feels a lot less like a computer thing. And I like tapering the line as well, so it's not all like one line weight. One thing I really dislike about a lot of computer art is the line weight's always the same. There's no like thick and thin to it. Doesn't look as nice. Controversial statement. And nice to be able to rotate the canvas in Photoshop. And again, back in the day we would have, in animation anyway, you'd rotate the light table or the animation disk to get the same result as this. Kind of a digital equivalent. And I can add, you don't just like robotically draw line over line. When you do this, you try to find ways to improve the original line. Go a little like Eric Goldberg wrote about this in his animation book. That a simple tracing over the original will always be like flat and lifeless. Whereas if you just try to add, go a little beyond, not necessarily hugely beyond what the rough drawing was, but never just do like a straight one-on-one. And for something like this, these little creases, we would want them to be lighter. And sometimes too, you might use a lighter line on the top where there's like a light, you imagine light coming at the object, and then this line where there's like a shadow at the bottom, you would often do a thicker line. And there's my wife talking to the cat, trying to calm him down. Okay. We have two very intelligent cats. Love them both, but they can be a real nuisance sometimes. Okay, just tie this thing down. And this is another time when you might want to rotate the screen a little bit. And sometimes too, if I have a problem with it, I'll go right in. Like I'll just zoom in. Some certain strokes, I don't know if it's an artifact of the drawing tablet, but they're easier to make when you zoom in. I have a friend who does a character design for one of the major primetime TV shows, and he swears that to use Photoshop, he has to go into like 300% magnification. And I well believe that. I think the newer versions are better, but yeah, they're never quite perfect. Okay, and then sound coming out, the old man's recorded voice. Okay, that's not looking too bad. So at this point, I will save it. Let's see, dead man. Now we repeat the process very quickly here for the next of kin. That one went a little too far away from the original roof. People often people of a certain political stripe often complain about how poor people today don't dress like they used to in the past. They don't have as much self-respect as poor people did in 1904. Rubbish, all that stuff. And I think it was one of the major historians like Arnold Toynbee or somebody like that. He pointed out that the proletarianization of clothing didn't begin with the poor. It began with the rich. The rich began dressing down, and poor people who can barely afford the suit start looking at wealthy people dressing with less, and think, why the hell should I? I think it was King Edward of Edward and Mrs. Simpson's fame, who I think he started the trend of not wearing a hat. He didn't like it, stopped it. Well, if the king didn't have to wear a hat, I don't have to wear a hat. Why don't people wear hats anymore? Because the king of England, according to what that theory anyway, stopped. But these trends happen. You see billionaires now dressing in jeans. Billionaire dresses in jeans. I can dress in jeans. That's the rule. Stop blaming the poor. Anyway, enough of that. So, here we go. Rich people want to walk around in three-piece suits all day. Let them. And maybe it'll catch on. Okay. And let's see. So we have this rough layer, and then we have this layer. Now, I like them combined, and I think I've turned the opacity. Let's see here. The opacity on this one is 100%. We'll call that tie down, and we'll call this one the cleanup. Very loose terms here. And then what I want to do is to let the tie down breathe a little bit more. So I'm going to take that upper line down a little bit, and then there we go. Now we have these line drawings. How do we color them? So we need, I'm going to just, I could commit and merge these. I'm going to keep these as separate layers for now. There's the background, to call that BG when you're working with layers, and I'm going to actually color code it green, so I can keep track of it a little more easily. These are the two line layers, so I'm going to color code them gray, and now we're going to put in a mask layer that will allow us to apply colors. So this is tedious as hell, so let's do that. I could use a shortcut here where I select the area around. That might work, but it's a bit noisy here. I don't think it's going to work in this case because the drawing is too loose. So I'm going to use the lasso tool and just go through here like this. And I'm holding down the shift key, so I keep adding to the selection. If I overshoot, I hold down the alt or the option key to deselect. Simple enough. Just keep going. And I will probably fast forward through this, but it doesn't take too long, usually about a few minutes. Not a big deal. Okay, so that's the that's going to be the mask area. Let's make it white, color it, and let's make sure that that is okay. There's no like areas in here that are solid white. It's a very simple shape here. So again, I'm going to save it because that was tedious. File, save. Okay. We have our background. Get rid of that mask thingy, whatever that is. Delete, please. Okay, so that'll be white. And I want to make a color area. So I'm going to copy that layer, hold down Alt, and then click to combine it to that. We'll make a blending layer, color overlay, and we'll pick a color for this. And let's just make it like the dark color of the suits, and then we'll start chopping this up into different layers. So we'll call this one suit. Okay, and we should probably have a background color. So let's go to the background layer, blend, color overlay. This is going to be maybe, I don't know if I should do this as a black and white image or a color. I tend to mix and match. Sometimes I like the black and white. Anyway, notice too there's a spot missing here. So let's go back into our brush, pick a hard brush, go into white, paint that, and then paint that, and then we're good. And then I think everything else is fine. The layer is, if you find that this layer here is kind of hard, sometimes I like to get the smudge tool. I think this one here, actually this one, crayon. And you can, these are ones I've made myself. We need to do that to the white layer. It'll be a tedious process at this point, but we can do that kind of stuff. But I think we're okay, because we're not going to be seeing this image up very close anyway. We're going to be only seeing it out at this distance. So it depends if you're going to be zooming in really close, but I think this image will be 1080p, so I'm making changes that won't even be visible, honestly, on the level of the pixel. Anyway, let's start chopping this up. So we'll make a skin layer, any parts of the image that are going to be the old man's skin. I'll chop that off. Let's go in a bit closer so we get it tighter. I have anti-alias on. Let's switch that off. So that is going to make our edges really clean. And the hand, and that's it for him. So there are different ways of coloring. I could just pick a different color and color in all these parts in one layer or multiple layers. I have found that the beauty of doing it like this is it just gives you a simplicity of control. So for example, Control C, Control X, Control Shift V, and I paint the new selection in here. Right click, blending options, color overlay, and now I can apply. And you know what, I'm going to make them slightly blue. I'm going to give them a corpsey blue here, and off there. And again, just to be thorough, we don't really have to at this point, but I'm going to nest it under hold Alt Option and click skin, dead skin. And we can subdivide, and as we proceed, we're removing, this is subtracting areas from the selection. So as we get on, as we proceed, it gets easier and easier to do. So let's subtract the chair. Control C, Control X, Control Shift V, and we'll call this one chair. Right click, blending options, color overlay, and again we can pick like a different tone. And now we can select these on or off by just clicking the layer. And the next thing I would need to get rid of is the shirt color. That's going to be pure white. And see how I don't have to worry about the selection here, because there's nothing there anymore. So as you continue using this method, that should be black there. Let me undo. As you continue doing this method, it gets easier and easier to subtract. So Control C, Control X, Control Shift V, and that's going to be white. I'm not going to make a color overlay for that. And this area here, I'm going to color that in. And that'll go on the line layer here. That should too. Okay, and so that we have anything else needs. Oh, the rope. Okay. And again, to select the rope, I don't have to be precise about that area because again, nothing there, nothing here. I only have to worry about the registration here. Let me zoom in, rotate, because I find that angle difficult being right-handed. Okay. Double click this to recenter and Control C, Control X, Control Shift V. Call this one rope. Always clean as you go, like in a kitchen. Blending options, color overlay, and then we pick. I think the rope should be lighter than the suit at this point. At some point I'm going to go in and darken that suit, but for now we're okay. Okay, all the layers back on. And I think to make the scene a little more dramatic, I think if the background is going to be darker, that'll be way better. Something like this. Okay. Again, we can go in and fine tune this. I don't like what's happening here, so I'm going to go in and get the brush tool. And I'm going to go into the white layer with the shaggy brush. These are personal brushes of mine. At some point I think I might just put links to them in the notes below. So if people want to follow along or use them. It's very important to have brushes you like. It's kind of impossible to do the work you want if you don't have the right brushes. And that's a whole other discussion anyway. But so let's also do one last little thing here. See the teeth? They shouldn't be the same color as the skin, obviously. So let's cut them off. Control X, the usual thing. Call them teeth. And I'm going to make them yellow, as was the style of the time. Color overlay, yellow. Okay. Not looking too bad. So the next big chop will be the table. Let's get rid of that. So I want that tablecloth to be just a regular white tablecloth. Okay, oh, you see I missed a bit down there. And get you. Control C, Control X, Control Shift V. Where did it go? Something weird happened there. I'm working on the wrong layer. Let's see here. So Control C, yeah, this is the one we're chopping. Oh no, I'm chopping from the wrong layer. Okay, this one. Control C, Control X, Control Shift V, and that'll be tablecloth. So this layer here, white, should be for the entire thing with never cut from that. And then the layer suit, that's the one that I'm slowly subtracting from to create all the different mask areas. So that is, and tablecloth I'm going to put on the bottom. Okay. And I'll put a shadow in here, but that'll be on a shadow layer. So the, let's just again delete the things that we're chopping because this can get a bit confusing. So, and I'm going to switch this layer off as well, because if you get lost in this, like I'm starting to get a little bit confused about what's being chopped from where. So the suit layer, I'm slowly subtracting these components until I'll leave nothing but the suit. Let's chop off the Edison wax cylinder. Control C, Control X, Control Shift V, Edison, the old plagiarizing thief. Or genius, as we call them these days. All right, and there we go. Tech wizard. That's what we'll call him. Okay, and then we'll lasso around here. Control C, Control X, Control Shift V, and I'm going to color code these. So the guy on the right, we'll just make him orange, and the corpse fella, we'll make him blue. Shirt, rope, suit. And that'll make it easier to parse all the layers. I'm going to sort these out up here. Oh, come on. All right, so that's all the corpse color layers are here. And we have let's see, the next of kin, call him kin. Okay, and right click, blending options, color overlay, and we'll make him just a regular gray. Okay. So again, here we need to start the same process. You get the idea by now. Just let's do that. I actually developed this in a method through just trial and error, and there's a very good animation. I forget the name. There's an animation channel. Two guys, very very talented, and they had a video on how to color a character, and it was identical. Like I think you converge. A lot of us just converge on the same approach because it's just you get worn down by doing it the wrong way. There's the optimal way of doing it, and people tend to stumble on it independently. This is chair. Okay, and let's see what else. So we want to give him a dark suit as well. Okay, and I think shirt should do it for him. And again, always name as you go. I know it's normally, unless you're in like a real creative flow, it makes sense just to do that, because otherwise you have to go back and it's a real headache. Okay, so there we go. We have, I think, most of the layers. We don't really have the background taken care of yet. That really annoys me. I hate this stupid little boring background thing, but let's do that. BG line. Let's again name this properly. BG line. What will we do? Just some big blocks of color. So here's a trick. If you want to like color like a straight line, this works on any program that uses the lasso tool. Rather than like doing this to get the straight line, just click here and drop the other point where you want the other line to be, and that will work in any lasso in any program. So let's color that. Let's see here. And I could take this down, use opacity. Again, sometimes I'll use opacities, but honestly, I find they create problems if they overlap and such. So let's do color overlay. Just give it like a darker area. Okay. Call this one wall, window, and we want another area. Now, because that's solid, we can actually put a layer beneath it without worrying about the registration of the color. So I can do this. Drop a color in, blending options, color overlay, and again make that one similar. Doesn't have to be, oh, it's slightly too much, just a little bit like that. Let's try that. Okay. We'll call this one wall left. And we have this silly like window thing that I just need to do for balance purposes. And let's just drop, again, same trick here. Now the characters will be going behind most of this, so I don't think we need to worry about that. Now here I might just give in and just do an opacity layer. Let's see if this works. Really low. Okay, let me reactivate all the other layers and see what we're looking at here. So yeah, this needs a bit more. So let me go in and mess with that a little bit. Yeah, I was just trying to get away with the cheapest possible thing. Sometimes you can, worth a shot. Notice that we have like a layer here for the window frame. So I'm going to use the straight line selection tool for that. And here too. No need to be too accurate with this because we're going for a fairly loose look. Oops, what happened there? I used the wrong. I was using, yes, hold on, the Alt or the Option key. Okay. Silly me. Okay, so that's going to be an area I'm going to chop off, and that's going to be the light coming through the window. Control X, V. Okay, so when you get into layers like this, it can be a little bit confusing. So let's just go back to basics. Wall, window. I think I might have chopped the wrong layer there. Let's undo. Okay, make sure we're chopping from the right layer. That's this one. Control C, Control X, there we go, Control Shift V. Easy mistake to make. So that's going to be light, window light. And this one will be the windows with curtains. Doesn't help you if you have seven layers, all called layer 1, layer 2. My eyesight is not good, so I'm barely able to see that. Okay, so Windows light, and then we can take that down. Now we can adjust that accordingly. That might be enough to read. Okay, so we're not quite done yet, so let's go File, Save, and let's punch it up a bit tonally. My great defect in the past has been timid with lighting, and it's nice if we can be a bit bolder with lighting. So let me cancel here. Let's see, so it's the wall left. That's going to be a dark tone. We could take it all the way down to black. I think pure black is just a little too much because it eats the line and all those little nice details. So I'm just going to take it up a slight amount. And let's see here. I think we want to balance the tone as well, so it's not all black on one side. So let's make the suit of the, and again, you see where my color layers really help me to find the exact area that I want. And let's take his suit down to sort of match and counterbalance that a little bit. And we might actually give him dark hair as well. And let's go in and make a new layer here using the lasso tool. And I think it's just, that's the layer we're working on here. Okay. And we can give him very dark hair. Control C, Control X, Control Shift V. Blending options, color overlay. Take it down to not dark because you see it looks just too much, but we can go fairly close. Okay, okay. And call out hair. Color code it. Close that. Alright, so we're getting a bit more balance. If this dark area is too dark, we could add something here to break it up. I'm going to have a vignette around here, like a little gradient vignette, so might not be too necessary. I still think it's a little too dark though, so I'm going to take it up a little bit. It's very hard to use this color picker, so let's type in numbers. Even small numbers here can make a big difference. So let's go to 12, 12, 12. And there's a few other things that we can do to help with the color balance and everything. We're going to add shades to the Edison cylinder, shadow layer to the tables. Let's do the tablecloth next. Here we go. Actually, we might extend that to there. Okay, so Control C, Control X, Control Shift V, blending options, color overlay, bring this down to not a very, very dark, but dark enough. Okay, okay. And the area, oh, tablecloth shadow side, let's say. And this area will probably be hidden behind the vignette, but let's just chop that off. Let's see, delete. Delete. There we go. And I think one of our layers here needs to be extended. Oh yes, the white layer. Okay, that was the area that should have been chopped. But I think we'll be okay with that. Again, file. Oops. File. Save. And I'd like to add. We have the Edison and the chair. Where's the chair? So the chair I'm going to make blue. It's part of the dead guy. So we'll make that blue. The Edison cylinder, I'm going to make it yellow. And we can either make a shadow layer or we can chop this up into more bits. Let's chop it up into like at least one more layer. Light's coming in from here. I think the shadows then should probably be here. And let's do that. We have at least one shadow layer. And this area in here would also be darker as well. Control C, Control X, Control Shift V, right click, blending options, color overlay, darken it down. Not super dark. There's reflected light, like it doesn't have to be as dark as this. That'll break things up a little bit. So Edison side, and we'll make that yellow. So oops, come here. Where are you? And we can keep adding like a couple of other tone layers to this. It looks too monochromatic, so it is made from different materials. So let's give it like you know what? I shouldn't have done that. Let me undo all of that. Come on. Okay, so let's chop it up based on material first. So this will be wood. Material first, then shadows. And I'll do a different shadow layer. Control C, Control X, Control Shift V. Call this Edison Wood. Right click, blending, and I'm imagining the wood is a little tonally darker than the cylinder. And now we will add a different color for the speaker. Control C, Control X, Control Shift V. And blending options. And I'm going to make it a little darker than the wax cylinder. Just so that, but not as dark as the wood. So that we have 3 different tones in there. Okay. And this time, I'm just going to make a shadow layer for this. Now, this is a little more enjoyable. SH for shadow. I don't like typing a lot of letters if I can help it. So I use codes when I can, when it's clear. And I'm going to make it black. And then I'm going to draw this in with the shaggy brush. And it's on a 66% opacity. And let's put this layer on an opacity as well. So we can do stuff like this. And because it's a sort of a shaggy brush with an opacity, you can sort of build up textures like this that are a little less, again, a little less digital, something that looks more, you know, like it was done with a physical brush and not a piece of silicone. So there we go. I think we could change to, for example, if I feel like I want that shadow to be a little more subtle, we can bring the opacity down and you can build up like a shadow layer with multiple strokes. It's not too bad. And then the other thing we will do is a light layer. And I like to put the light layer on top of the shadow layer just to be consistent, because I imagine light coming from above. Just to give me like a little mnemonic shorthand so I can find layers when I'm getting lost. We can put like either a kind of a rim light like this. It'll help it stand out. And you can add more than one shadow layer. For now, I'm going to leave it like that. Now that's the shadow layer for the Edison speaker. File, save. We can do the same thing for the dead guy. 2 more layers. Shadow, light, F6. Okay, shadow will be with a dark pen. And again, we can use any of these. I really like this shaggy brush. So again, let me get the opacity down a little bit. Now the light's coming in from the window. If we're going to like respect that window as a light source and not imagine we can fake it. Like we can imagine the light coming from any angle we like. But let's see what it looks like. I'm going to bring the opacity down. My cat knows I'm having problems, so he is now screaming at the door. And let's just do that. Now, if you're blocking in shadows, sometimes it's nice just to be big and bold about it and use the biggest brush you can. Don't feel like you know that you have to be working with lots of little tiny strokes. We can just apply it over the whole thing. And we can take the opacity up or down. If we don't like it, we'll just delete it. And we can erase back into the shadow layer if we like. But oftentimes, like I'll find like the big crude strokes look better. They have like a vitality to them that clean ones don't. And we can add like another layer pass too over this. And also these kind of jaggy brushes also add to the perception of like decayed skin and whatnot, like to give it like a bit more clutter. If we don't like that, we can go to the erase tool, pick a shaggy brush there, and you can start picking out areas if we chopped in a little too hard. We want things to stand out a little bit. You know, maybe there's like a little light hitting the wart. Maybe you want the ear to pick up a little bit. A little rim light on the chair here. And just to chop. And this back and forward is what artists have done for years. So it's a good idea to get away from some of the overly clean stuff that we tend to do on computers now, which doesn't have the vitality. And we had this problem when we worked in feature animation back in the day. some of the best cleanup guys at the Bluth studio would have long discussions with one another about how is it that every time we do our best to clean up one of these really nice looking scenes, the cleanup is definitely cleaner, but it's a lot less lively. The life gets sucked out of it. And the Disney guys knew that as well. Like, it's a problem, and I don't think it can be done with a clean line. The cleaner you get, the less of that kind of energy it has. It's just a thing. So, it's just something to watch out for. Like there, I've gone too far. I want to use the smudge tool. Just do that. Okay. So that's the beauty of working with this method, because you can get some of that roughness back in. And if I think the tonally it's too dark or not dark enough, we can muck around with it. So I'm going to be a little probably on the conservative side here and just do that. So again, no shadow, shadow, no shadow, shadow. And let's just bring that in there. You can also do little things like a reflected light here, which can, let's see here, erase tool, that's the one I want. So, you can do stuff like this, which, because light's not from usually one source. Like if there is light coming in from this window and hitting him here, it's bouncing off the wall behind us that we don't see. And you have a secondary illumination. There might be a little lamp off screen. So we're not limited to, to be robotic again about where we put the light, but just try to give some kind of thought to it. Okay. All right. It's not too bad. I'm not in love with it, but it's okay. So let's maybe add a few more little touches like this. Like this is why I try to give myself a time limit, because I am a natural nitpicker, and I would just spend all week doing one drawing, and that would be bad. So another thing that we can do to help balance the tonal problems here, there's another one here up here. This is too dark, so let's go in and fix that, because I just caught my eye, and that's here. So let's just do like another one of these. Control C, Control X, Control Shift V, and that will be, put that behind them, that'll be the ceiling. And we'll make that lighter, but not pure white, or it'll pull the eye. So blend, where's the color overlay? They keep moving these around. I love the way they do that. So just lighter than those two, but not as light as the window. So this area here you would think would be the lightest area, the window light. Let's bring it up again. Okay, and we'll do the same thing with him. We'll just give him a shadow. See if that works. So he is the character here. So 1, 2. We'll give him a shadow layer and a light layer. Again, back to the big brush. Shaggy. Now I'm drawing this at the wrong opacity, but because it's nested behind the white layer, I can cleanly draw around the edge, and I don't have to worry about registering to the edge of the I do down there, because the tablecloth is part of that white mask layer, but the outer parts of the character are masked, so I can just really work fast. Okay, so now let's go into the eraser tool and the lasso tool. Okay, and there's a bit of a gap there, so let's go to smudge and just close that. And I can use the smudge tool just to smear like a brush. And probably color shadows here as well. Okay, and then use the light layer with a line of white. Maybe just put a, let's see about that. And we can take the opacity down too if that's too strong. Maybe pick out some light on the ear. Again, there could be bounced light over at this side as well. Again, that shadow layer is a little too dark for my taste, so let's just take it up a little bit. So I'm not liking the tonal value of the whole thing, to be honest. So let's do a couple of things here. Control crop, pull it in a little bit. And the balance, there we go. It's a little better balance-wise. So what to do about the background? I think maybe just take the background tones up. So we'll go wall left. And take that up a bit and see what that looks like. I'd still like it to be darker than his skin so that we get the maximum kind of contrast there. And let's take his suit down. I think his suit's very light because you think you're at a funeral. They'll put the body in a darker suit, wouldn't you think? So let's take that down a little bit. The darker area pulls the eye in. Your eye is naturally attracted to the darker areas. In color, it's red and hot colors like that. But with darker areas, you see your eye getting drawn naturally to that. So I think we can probably go with that. I think it might be a bit better. This annoys me so much. You have no idea. Microsoft, always making helpful improvements to make our lives better. Okay. And let's darken that. And maybe just a new layer, make a new shadow layer. And that layer went somewhere. That whole Microsoft pop-up thing has just really thrown me. Thanks, guys. Thanks. Okay, and thanks, guys, thighs, for the Peter Serafinovich look around you fans out there. So, here we go. Let's just darken that area too. And again, we can keep building it up. This is kind of good and a bad thing because it can also trap you with perpetual fixes. So, be careful you don't get stuck in a perfectionist loop. And that's my personal failing. Okay, and that's much better too. That's starting to look nicer. Now we can go over the hairs here and just start building that up a bit. Now I'm probably going to have to call this at some point and not, like I said, get caught up in a perfectionist thing because I do have many other things to do. But I think this might give a good idea about the process involved and the time involved. And I'm not going to do a lot of fast forwarding on this. So whatever the runtime of this video is, it will be more or less the time it took me to draw it. Oops. God, come on. Okay, and then okay. Okay, that's looking better. Now see if we take that line off. Look at the difference that makes. So I'm going to put that on the top, and actually I'm going to make that like a line, like CU for cleanup. So that'll be the darkest line. And I think we should probably, like, that looks so good. Oh no, he's being a perfectionist again. 4 hours later. I'm not going to do that though. So just do like a very quick like little outline over this. See what that looks like. So if you look at the Edison wax cylinder. Now we're losing a little bit of form here, so I'm going to put like a little shadow under there too. One thick line on this side and not on that side, because the shadow will be on this side. So the thickness of the line can correspond with the light source. It's a subtlety, but it really does make a difference. And we want the chair also to be a little firmer too, line-wise. Oh, look at that. Thank you, Bill. Thanks, Bill. So clever, Bill. Thanks for making Edge like take over my computer. And actually, one of the latest Windows updates, I couldn't sign into my computer. I nearly had a heart attack. I thought I'd been hacked. And terrifying. Like I was shaking. I thought you can't log into your computer. All my project files. Like I guess I could like tear the hard drive out, and it was just some like stupid Windows Edge login setting that they made life pointlessly difficult. And there are scenarios where if I had been under like a real deadline crush, that could have been really terrifying. Not Adobe bad, but bad enough. Like I've had problems with Adobe as well in the past where terrible, really terrible things like studio killer problems have happened to me, which have happened to other people too. We had a huge thread on the Adobe website. There's a reason why you're watching me do this in CS6 and not Creative Cloud. I do use Creative Cloud when I have to for clients. But my God, it just stopped working. And when this is triggered by the middle mouse button on my laptop, and every so often I'll hit it, and that stupid thing happens and completely takes me out of workflow. There's no reason for that, and they won't let me disable the middle mouse button, so I might have to physically pull it out. I'm thinking about it. Anyway, so let's see if this is looking better. Let's zoom out here to there. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at this more or less. Now the finishing touches that will really help kind of fix some of the weaknesses on this are a vignette. So I picked the soft brush, and I'm going to use this to make like a sort of period style vignette. Now I don't like this to go over the hand. And you see how all this business here gets sort of covered up by the blur, the outline. I want to leave that little touch of shadow there. If I paint it into that, looks, I guess you could get away with that. It's not too bad, and it gives me space for my signature. I might consider that, but I kind of like having the little touch of gray there as well. Now we do have this issue down here with the hand, so I'll show you like a little fix for that. A couple of ways of handling that, and I'm just going to use the quick and dirty one. Okay, so we have a little imbalance here with the white area, so let's cover that. Okay, and I want to make sure that there's no gaps. Nothing drives me crazier than when I do this and I export it and then I find there's a little gap somewhere here and you can't see it until it's against a white background. So let me make a temporary white background here and fill that in, and then actually Control I. I know that looks good. So there's no little gaps. That's perfect white. So let me delete that. We're good. Go File. Getting very close to the end now. And again, I can keep going with this, and I'm going to stop because I could put plates in here. I could little glass of wine, painting on the wall. We have many things to do, so that can be done in a future second pass, if time permitting. So I'm keeping the line weight of the background opacity so it doesn't compete with the characters. Yeah, I think we're good. Only this little hand being, I'd like that to be on top of the vignette. And we can do that too. So actually, probably the easiest way to do that is to make a clipping mask here. So we go down here and create a mask. And now I can mask out using different colors. And I always forget if it's the white or the black, that actually I think it's black, isn't it? Yes. So now I can make, oh, what just happened? I did some stupid shortcut. Let me delete this again. Delete mask, make a new mask. And with black, I can paint out that part of the vignette. It's still there. So there, with a shift, I can click on that and switch it on or off. And same thing here. So if I'm very careful, and that's the cleanest way, I think, to handle that. And notice that, you know, the edge is a bit sharp. Doesn't look too natural. So we can use the smudge tool. And what we're doing here is holding down the Alt or the Option key, I can then see the actual layer, and this is the layer we're working with. Anything that's black on this layer is going to be masked out. So I click, yeah, back there. So making sure that, see, I can draw on the drawing layer or I can draw on the mask layer. So we're just masking out the vignette. Okay, that's probably the best way to do that. So File, Save, Signature, where will I put it? I guess we could put it up here, but it's kind of getting in the way. You could put it here. I think down here is best. Go to black, Running anchor. I always try to line them up so it's the same. Okay, bring it in a little bit. Make it a bit smaller. Just take it down a tad so it's not going to catch the eye too bad. Okay, so file, save. Now there's another process, and I've learned the hard way to do this on the duplicate image. It's very easy to forget that you're going to do something destructive. I'm going to merge all of these layers. And you see when we zoom in how flat this is. No natural look would do that. So we go file, or filter rather. Filter, noise, add noise. And I'm going to add about 16. Well, that's too much. Make it 11% maybe. Normally I work on a bigger image size than this, so that's why the noise is so high. Let me take it down to about 7, 8. I want it to read. Okay, monochromatic, yes. I don't want color artifacts in it. And now we go layer, flatten image, image size, and this will be 1080. So that'll be the final export image. File, save as, and a PNG, so there's no artifacts on it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Save. Smallest size, yes. Okay, done. That's it. Go to the desktop and well, I saved it somewhere. Oh yeah, I think I know where it is. So I'll find that, upload it, and I think that's pretty much it. So that is how we do one of these crazy cartoons. So if you like that, let me know in the comments below, and like and subscribe, and I might do more of these. Okay, cheers.